Hey guys, what's going on? So today I have an album review for Defeated Sanity's Prelude to the Tragedy. So yeah, Defeated Sanity's debut album. It's a really good album. I don't think it's their best. I'd actually say this is one of their weaker releases. But it's still like a great album, but it's like compared to their other albums, it's not as good as those, but I'd still say this is a really good album, which I'll get into. But still a great release. This is a vinyl reissue on Xenocorp. I have not heard of that label. Hype sticker. Oh, it's limited to 300. I got number 131. Just hype sticker says Defeated Sanity, Prelude to the Tragedy. 300 hand number copies, limited edition reissue of the 2004 full length by the Kings of a New Technical / Brutal Death Metal Generation on vinyl for the first time ever. Specifically remastered at Concrete Studio. In parentheses, Annata. I don't know what that means. A must for any death metal fan. Here's the album cover. The original version had a different logo, which I like this one a lot better, so I'm glad they replaced it. This band's old logo looked like fucking really amateurish. Cool album cover though, shitty CGI. I like those kind of album covers. I mean, they're objectively shit, but they're so like, they're dated, but in a cool way in my opinion. Here's the back. You have like the credits of like, you know, the band and stuff. Track listing, so you got Liquefying Cerebral Hemispheres, Drifting Further, The Parasite, Horrid Decomposition, Tortured Existence, Apocalypse of Filth / Collapsing Human Failures, Remnants of the Deed, Prelude to the Tragedy, Expectoration of Fear, Drifting Further, the demo version, and Apocalypse of Filth / Collapsing Human Failures, another demo version. So yeah. Gatefold. Looks like you got all the lyrics here, and just some like liner notes and like thank yous and stuff over there. Got a bunch of cool pictures right here. This is just on black vinyl, not 1/8 or anything, nothing too special. Sounds pretty good. The other label's the same. So I'd say this album it's a good debut album, but it sounds it'd be a stretch to say almost nothing like, but it sounds very unsimilar to the rest of Defeated Sanity's discography. They hadn't quite found their style yet. They didn't find their signature, like that, like really, like I guess like kind of eerie sounding, like creepy fucking cold sounding atmosphere. They hadn't really found that yet. This album is a lot more on the technical side of things as opposed to brutal. I mean, this band would get a lot more brutal with like the album after, Psalms of the Moribund and so on and so forth, but I'd say this one is a little bit more of a technical death metal album. But it still has a lot of brutal death metal in it. You could still call it a BDM album, but this one's a little more technical than it is brutal. It's not overly technical, and in fact they would get more technical than this later on in their career, but there's not that many brutal, like super brutal things about this album. The riffs, they're not as like chuggy. There's not really that many like slammy riffs on here, or like just brutal death metal style riffs. They're more shreddy and technical. Not like stupid like it's not like there's like a ton of tapping and sweeping, but they're not like flashy technical. Well, they're kind of flashy, but not like it doesn't sound like, I guess, like it doesn't sound like Necrophagist or something like that. But it's still very technical. Not quite as jazzy as they would become later on either, but there's still a few like elements of that here and there on tracks like Liquefying Cerebral Hemispheres, which is definitely the best song on the album. There's some like slightly slower parts on here, like I believe it's either The Parasite or Drifting Further has this one like slower part that sounds really cool and adds a lot of atmosphere to this album. I'd say this one sounds a lot more like apocalyptic sounding, if you will. I mean, just look at the album cover. This one sounds like the fucking, it's just, this one's more, I don't want to say it's more chaotic, but it's more focused on general chaos and like speed than it is atmosphere and like tone like their other albums are. Not that their other albums aren't fast. I mean, I'd say Psalms of the Moribund is way faster than this, but this one is mostly focused on speed. It's not really blasturbation though. There are a few groovy parts. The intro to Apocalypse of Filth is kind of groovy. The vocals on here are very different from all their other albums. I mean, this album probably has the most normal sounding vocals. I mean, on their other albums, they've got all sorts of really crazy, nasty, weird vocals. But on this one, they just kind of sound like regular death metal vocals. They're not super low. There are some highs on here, which I really like. But for the most part, they're kind of like a little lower than mid, but not quite lows. Not really my favorite vocals, but they get the job done. The drumming from Lille Gruber, I believe that's his name, is it? Yeah, the drumming from Lille Gruber on here. He's one of my favorite death metal drummers in general, and his drumming on this album is really fucking awesome. It's not quite as, like, he doesn't use quite as many fills as he does on the other albums, but still really impressive drumming. If you like Flo from Cryptopsy, you'll like this guy's drumming a lot. Just the general atmosphere on the song, like I said, it sounds like the album cover looks. Not as cold or brooding as their other albums. It's a lot more just in your face with like speed. Whereas that's kind of the focus on here. And actually, the track Prelude to the Tragedy, the title track on the song, was re-recorded on the next album, Songs in the Moribund, which is funny because that song sounds like it would work better on Songs in the Moribund. Because that one's a lot more chunky. Production-wise, this album, the production is decent. It's not as chunky, and there's not as much low end as there is on their other albums. They didn't go with like the crazy scooped mids on the guitars yet. The production here is pretty mid-range. I'd say it's not super thin sounding, but it's not as bassy and chunky as their other stuff is. The general like tone of the album is just not very. It's not super low or high, but it's just kind of there. It's not super clean or raw either. It's kind of in between. The bonus tracks are from their 2002 demo, or excuse me, the bonus track, the demo version of Drifting Further is from their 2002 demo. And the Apocalypse of Filth / Collapsing Human Failures bonus track is from, it says, the 2003 split with Imperious Malevolence. But the demo versions sound almost identical to the album versions. They just have different production. They're a lot more raw, obviously, but instrumentally they sound identical. I mean, even the pacing, the guitar tuning, and the vocals sound very similar to me. I don't know, it's not a perfect album, and it's not the best album ever. If you're new to Defeated Sanity, this is definitely not the place to start, because this doesn't sound anything like their other albums. But it's still a very good album, and it's still a solid debut. It's not a bad album at all, but it's not exactly quite what you would want from Defeated Sanity in general. But overall, it is definitely a solid album. It's about half an hour long, too, so it's not too long or short. And I mean, all their albums are generally pretty short, around like 25 minutes to half an hour, which I really liked in general for brutal death metal. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of a Defeated Sanity. If you don't like brutal death metal, this is the Defeated Sanity album for you, because this one is not as brutal as their other stuff. On a heaviness scale, I'd say this is about as heavy as like maybe like Origin or a band like that. Whereas it's really fast and technical, but it's not like, it doesn't sound like scary sounding like they would get later on. If you're not into brutal death metal, though, this isn't something you should really avoid. It's a good album. But again, if you're new to Defeated Sanity, this is not the album for you. I would recommend like Psalms in the Moribund or Passages into Deformity if you're new to this band. But nonetheless, still a solid album. I don't really have much else to say about it. I think I'd give this like a 7, 7 out of 10. Really good, just very different from their other albums. They haven't quite found their mojo yet. Not as unique sounding as their other albums either. But still a good album. So yeah, it's Defeated Sanity with Prelude to the Tragedy. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.